Hey everyone, we have discussed simple distillation. Today we will discuss about chromatography. Separation of components by using chromatography. First of all, what is chromatography? Chromatography is a technique of separating two or more dissolved solid which are present in a solution in very small quantities. There are many types of chromatography, but the simplest form is the paper chromatography. So, we will study only paper chromatography in this class. By using paper chromatography, we can separate two or more different substances present in the same solution. This separation is based on the fact that though two substances are soluble in the same solvent, but their solubilities may be different. Some may be more soluble than the others. For example, black ink contains a number of dyes dissolved in water. These dyes have different solubilities in water. This fact is used to separate the dyes present in black ink. It is most easy to perform chromatography experiment with the mixtures of colored materials like ink and other dyes because they separate to give colored component which can be seen easily as colored spots on the paper. A special type of paper called chromatography paper is used for carrying out separation by chromatography. For ordinary purposes, however, filter paper can also be used for paper chromatography experiments. Even you can use your drawing sheet for this experiment. The different colored dyes present in black ink can be separated by performing a paper chromatography experiment as follows. First of all, take a thin and long strip of filter paper. Draw a pencil line on it. Make sure you are using pencil. About 3 centimeters from one end of filter paper. Put a small drop of black ink on the filter paper strip at the center of the pencil line. Now, when the drop of ink has dried, the filter paper strip is lowered into a tall glass jar containing some water in its lower part. You need to keep the pencil line at the bottom. The filter paper strip is held vertically by attaching its upper end to a glass rod with sellotape, the glass rod being kept over the mouth of glass jar. Please note that though the lower end of the paper strip should dip in water, but the pencil line should remain above the water level in the jar. Means pencil line should not touch the water level. The water gradually rises up the filter paper strip by capillary action. As water moves up the paper strip, it takes along the dyes present in ink. The dye, which is more soluble in water, dissolves first, rises faster, and produces a colored spot on the paper at a higher position. The less soluble dyes dissolve a little later, rise slower, and form colored spot at lower heights. In this way, all the dyes present in black ink get separated by forming separate different colored spots. When the water reaches near the top end of the filter paper strip, the paper strip is removed from the jar and dried. The paper with its separate colored spot is called a chromatogram. The chromatogram obtained by using black ink in this experiment has 3 colored spots on it. This means that the given sample of black ink has 3 different dyes mixed in it. Chromatography is an important tool in chemical analysis. It is used to separate small amount of dissolved substances. Some of the important application of chromatography are as follow. It can be used to separate solution of colored substances, dyes and pigments we can separate out by using paper chromatography. Then it is used in forensic science to detect and identify trace amount of substances like poison in the content of bladder or stomach. Chromatography is used to separate small amount of product of chemical reactions. Now let's see how we can use centrifugation method to separate the component of a mixture. If we have a mixture of fine suspended particles in a liquid, we can separate it by the process of filtration by using a filter paper. This process is, however, very slow, but we can separate the suspended particle of a substance in a liquid very rapidly by using the method of centrifugation. Centrifugation is done by using a machine called centrifuge. We can now say that centrifugation is a method of separating the suspended particle of a substance from a liquid in which the mixture is rotated at a high speed in a centrifuge. In the method of centrifugation, the mixture of fine suspended particle in a liquid is taken in a test tube. This test tube is placed in a centrifuge machine and rotated rapidly for some time. As the mixture rotates round rapidly, a force acts on the heavier suspended particle in it and brings them down to the bottom of the test tube. The clear liquid, being lighter, remains on top. We can separate the clay particles suspended in water very rapidly by the method of centrifugation. The suspension of clay particle in water is taken in a test tube and rotated very fast in a centrifuge machine. The clay particles settle down at the bottom of the test tube and clear water remains at the top. They can now be separated by decantation. We can use this method to separate cream from milk. Milk is a suspension of tiny droplet of cream in a watery liquid. The process of centrifugation is used in dairies to separate cream from milk. The milk is put in a closed container in big centrifuge machine. When the centrifuge machine is switched on, the milk is rotated at a very high speed in its container. Due to this, the milk separate into cream and skimmed milk. The cream, being lighter, floats over the skimmed milk. It can then be removed. Thus, cream is separated from milk by centrifugation. The process of centrifugation is also used in washing machine to squeeze out water from wet clothes and make them dry. The method of filtration and centrifugation which we discussed can be used to separate an insoluble solid substances from a liquid. They cannot separate a dissolved solid from a liquid. The separation of a dissolved solid from a liquid can be done by a number of other methods such as evaporation, crystallization, chromatography, and distillation.